I loathed you, Spoon River. I tried to rise above you. I was ashamed of you. I despised you as the place of my nativity. And there in Rome, among the artists, speaking Italian, speaking French, I seemed to myself at times to be free of every trace of my origin. I seemed to be reaching the heights of art, and to breathe the air that the masters breathed, and to see the world with their eyes. But still they'd pass my work and say, "What are you driving at, my friend?" Sometimes the face looks like Apollo's, at others it has a trace of Lincoln's. There was no culture, you know, in Spoon River, and I burned with shame and held my peace. And what could I do? All covered over and weighted down with western soil, except aspire and pray for another birth in the world, with all of Spoon River rooted out of my soul.
Ran away and threw me. I went to Springfield. There I met a lush whose father, just deceased, left him a fortune. He married me when drunk. My life was wretched. A year passed, and one day they found him dead. That made me rich. I moved on to Chicago. After a time, met Tyler Roundtree, villain. I moved on to New York. A gray-haired magnate went mad about me, so another fortune. He died one night, right in my arms, you know. I saw his purple face for years thereafter. There was almost a scandal. I moved on, this time to Paris. I was now a woman, insidious, subtle, versed in the world, and rich. My sweet apartment near the Champs-Élysées became a center for all sorts of people. Musicians, poets, artists, dandies. Where we spoke French and German, Italian, English. I wed Count Navigato, native of Genoa. We went to Rome. He poisoned me, I think. Now, in the Camp Santo, overlooking the sea where young Columbus dreamed new worlds, see what they chiseled? Contessa Navigato, implora, eterna, quiete.
My parents thought that I would be as great as Edison, or greater. When I was a boy, I made balloons and wondrous kites, and little engines with tracks to run on, and toys with clocks. I painted pictures, I molded in clay, I played the cornet, and even took the part of the villain in the Octoroom. But at 21, I married and had to live. And so, to live, I learned the art of watchmaking and kept the jewelry store on the square. Thinking not of business, but of the engine I studied calculus to build. And all of Spoon River watched and waited to see it work. But it never worked. A few kind souls thought my genius was somehow hampered by the store. That wasn't true. The truth was this: I didn't have the brains.
I was one of the first fruits of battle in Missionary Ridge. When I felt the bullet enter my heart, I wish I'd stayed home and gone to jail for stealing the hogs of Colonel Trannery. Instead of running away, joining the army, rather 1,000 times the county jail. The line of this marble statue, with wings, and this granite pedestal bearing the words, Pro Patria. What do they mean, anyway?
The dances at Chandlerville and played Snap Out at Winchester. One time we changed partners, And then I met Davis. We were married for 70 years, enjoying, working, raising the 12 children, 8 of whom I lost ere I had reached the age of 60. I spun, I wove, I kept the house, nursed the sick, made the garden, and at 96, I had lived enough, that is all, and passed to a sweet repose. Degenerate sons and daughters, what is this I hear of anger, discontent, and drooping hopes? Life is too strong for you. It takes life to love life.
I bought every kind of machine that's known. Grinders, shellers, planters, mowers, mills and rakes and plows and threshers. And all of them stood in the sun and the rain, getting rusted, warped, and battered, for I had no sheds to store them in and no use for most of them. And towards the last, as I thought it over, there by my window, growing clear about myself, as my pulse slowed down, I looked at one of the mills I bought, which I hadn't any need of as things turned out, and I never ran. A fine machine, once brightly varnished and eager to do its work, now with its paint washed off. I saw myself as a good machine that life had never used.